ENET Philippines is a national coalition of civil society organizations engaged in policy advocacy and the promotion of partnerships for education reforms. This video contains animated scenes, charts, and illustrations. There are also Filipino Sign Language inset and closed captions.
Module title: Module Intersectionality of Gender and Disability Part 1. Module description: This module will provide an overview of concept and practice of intersectionality. It will highlight the intersection of gender and disability, looking into the lived experiences of women, girls, and LGBTQIA++ with disability, and the impact of intersectional discrimination. The module also contains theoretical inputs and exercises on intersectional approach, particularly on applying disability and gender lens in our work and other aspects of our lives. Intersectionality of gender and disability follows the module on the rights-based approach to disability, so it is important that you finish the latter to better understand the concepts about disability inclusion and justice. Overall objective: the learners will have basic conceptual and practical understanding of intersectionality with focus on the intersection of gender and disability. Outcome: by the end of this course, learners have a clearer and deeper understanding of intersectionality as a concept, approach, and tool. Learners are more aware of basic gender concepts, look at gender roles and stereotypes, differentiate types of gender-based violence, and analyze their impact. Learners are aware of the 4 popular approaches to disability: the concept of disability according to UNCRPD, the barriers faced by persons with disabilities, and ableism as one of the systems of oppression. Duration: 180 minutes or 3 hours. Mode of learning: multimedia, online. Topic number 1. Introducing intersectionality. Input: have you been to Crossing? Some of us are familiar with this area, some may not. This is the name given to the intersection between Epifanio Delos Santos Avenue, popularly known as EDSA, and Shaw Boulevard. This is just one of the big ones found in Metropolitan Manila, and if you happen to pass by, you will know that it is a very busy intersection. How about in your place? What intersections do you know of? Intersectionality can be a buzzword for many of us. Over the years and in many spaces, people have tried and are still trying to define it, frame it, and apply it in their work and daily lives. Intersection itself has many analogies like that of a crossroad. But what really is intersectionality? Intersectionality was originally coined by African-American feminist and scholar Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. It started when an African-American woman's case against a local motor manufacturing plant was dismissed. Women of color, particularly Black women, were either not accepted for the job or were fired from their work. The judge said that it couldn't be a grounds for discrimination as the manufacturer was hiring African Americans and women. Yes, it was true. However, the judge failed to recognize that those who were hired were only African American men and white women. They saw gender and race as independent rather than interrelated systems that can be used to oppress and marginalize Black women. There was no frame to focus on the overlapping oppression that the African American women experienced. According to Crenshaw, there is no name for the problem. You can't see the problem. You cannot solve the problem. In essence, intersectionality is a way of thinking about identity and its relationship to power. Kimberly Crenshaw, 2015. Learning activity number 1. Thinking about intersectionality, there is a big possibility that we will look outside the window. However, in this activity, let us touch base first on our own identities. Here is the description of Loden's diversity wheel. It is a circle composed of an inner and an outer circle. The inner circle is divided into 8 pieces, namely age, gender identity or expression, gender, national origin, sexual orientation, mental, physical ability, race or ethnicity. The outer circle is divided into 9 pieces, namely education, political belief, family, organizational role, language and communication skills, income, religion, appearance, and work experience. You may use it as a guide to identify yourself. To review, the identities included in the wheel are the following: age, gender identity, gender expression, national origin, sexual orientation, disability, race or ethnicity, education, political belief, family, organizational role, language and communication skills, income, religion, appearance, work experience. Take note that identities are not limited to those found in the wheel. After internalizing the different identities, let us examine its relationship to power. Power is closely linked with privilege and marginalization. Privilege refers to certain social advantages, benefits, or degrees of prestige and respect that an individual has by virtue of belonging to certain social identity groups. Within American and other Western societies, these privileged social identities, people who have historically occupied positions of dominance over others, including whites, males, heterosexuals, Christians, and the wealthy, among others. Marginalization, a form of acute and persistent disadvantage rooted in underlying social inequalities. With the following in mind, try to fill in the blanks. Number 1. The part of my identity that I am most aware of on a daily basis is R. Number 2. The part of my identity that I am least aware of on a daily basis is R. Number 3. The part of my identity that was most emphasized or important in my family growing up was where? Number 4. The part of my identity that I wish I knew more about is R. Number 5. The part of my identity that makes me feel discriminated against is R. Number 6. The part of my identity that provides me the most privilege is R. Number 7. The part of my identity that I believe is the most misunderstood by others is R. Number 8. The part of my identity that I feel is difficult to discuss with others who identify differently is R. Next, think about how your answers affect you as a person and your life as it is right now. If you're comfortable, share this exercise with other people and compare your answers. Did you find commonalities? Did you find differences in terms of A. Identities, B. Privileges, C. Marginalization? We touched on our identities as they are close to who we are. Clearly, it shows that we don't live single-issued lives. One of the major claims of intersectionality is that while we strive to find commonalities between people and their lived experiences, we have to accept people's different subjectivities, identities, and locations. On the other hand, it should be noted that looking into our identities does not make intersectionality individualistic, but rather highlighting the interconnectedness and overlapping of different structures and systems of oppression that create unique dynamics and effects for us. Input: Intersectionality Wheel. Intersectionality Wheel shows how the age cycle and the identities of an individual meet the systems of oppression. Colonialism, homophobia, ageism, transphobia, sexism, ableism, religious discrimination, classism, racism. This design is adapted from the Equality Institute's version of Intersectionality Wheel. Power relations recognize that processes and systems of power interact to shape experiences of privilege and disadvantage between and within groups. A person can experience power in some contexts and oppression in others. Intersectionality. What is it? What it is not. Here is Table 1 to show us what intersectionality is and isn't. Focus of intersectionality: social categories and social inequality. What it is: mutually constituted and intersecting. What it isn't: adding up advantages and subtracting disadvantages. To put simply, intersectionality looks at intersecting identities of a person that are always present and interconnected. It is not about counting privileges and disadvantages. Focus of intersectionality: dynamic nature of inequality. What it is: inequalities as dynamic relationships. What it isn't: a static and siloed examination of inequalities. To put simply, they are interconnected. We need to solve them together. Focus of intersectionality: contextual dependency. What it is: understanding that power configurations are time and location dependent. What it isn't: assumptions regarding the importance of any one or multiple social categories. To put simply, power is not fixed. You can be powerful or powerless depending on the place and time. Focus of intersectionality: structural and political context. What it is: structural and political factors that shape inequalities. What it isn't: focus on individual behavior without consideration of structural and political constraints. To put simply, a person's experience and relationship to power is affected by their behavior, internal factor, as well as political and structural factors, external factors. Focus of intersectionality: power relations. What it is: an exploration on how social inequalities are shaped by power relations. What it isn't: ignorance of the impact of power relations on social inequalities. To put simply, a person's power in and out of their homes is very much related to their social status and how they are treated. Focus of intersectionality: Implications for most disadvantaged. What it is. Focus on implications for those most marginalized within a group. What it isn't. Focus on implications for those whose status is protected or elevated within a group. To put simply, a gain for some is not a gain if there are people suffering because of it. This is about recognizing, preventing, and addressing the negative impact to most disadvantaged groups and society in general. Focus of intersectionality, reflexivity. What it is. Practitioners' reflection on how their own background identities shape the research process and interpretation of results. What it isn't. Practitioners attempt to completely remove themselves from the research and analysis process. To put simply, researchers must acknowledge and constantly check their own biases, beliefs, judgments, and practices. They must be proactive in addressing them throughout the entire process. Why does it matter? Intersectional approach is critical and required because of the following. Ensuring equality for everyone by recognizing that people have multiple dimensions of identity and that their experiences of discrimination and privilege come from the intersections of these identities. Understanding and addressing the multiple forms of oppression that marginalized groups of people often face. Policy making, program formulation, and service delivery that are inclusive of, accessible to, and responsive to people's unique and intersecting needs, realities, and context. More efficient allocation and utilization of resources. Improved collaboration between and within stakeholders. Fulfilling the global pledge to leave no one behind. Achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. Intersectionality recognizes that people's lives are shaped by their identities, relationships, and social factors. These combine to create intersecting forms of privilege and oppression depending on a person's context and existing power structures such as patriarchy, ableism, colonialism, imperialism, homophobia, and racism. It is important to remember the transformative potential of intersectionality, which extends beyond merely a focus on the impact of intersecting identities. Here's a short video of Crenshaw explaining how intersectionality matters, in particular in education setting. Here's another video, why it is urgent.